Welcome to Heart Over Gold, the channel where love, kindness, and humanity shine brighter than any fortune. In today's story, rejected by her family and left homeless, Sarah's life seemed hopeless until a kind stranger named Samuel offered her support. As their bond grew, Sarah discovered love and healing, but soon faced a painful betrayal that would challenge everything she thought she knew about trust and happiness. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest stories. It was an unseasonably cold night for late spring when Sarah found herself on the streets, huddled in the corner of a small park. She had been kicked out of her family home just days before, her pregnancy the reason for the rejection. Her parents, who had always been her safe place, had turned on her when she told them the news. They were disappointed, angry, and ashamed, convinced that the baby she was carrying would ruin everything for her. With no other choice, she left, her heart breaking. As she walked away from the only life she had ever known, she had no idea where to go or what to do. Her friends had already distanced themselves when they learned of her situation, leaving her alone and vulnerable. The chill in the air made her shiver as she tucked herself into a corner of the park. She had nothing but a few belongings in a bag, a torn jacket, and the growing life inside her. She wrapped her arms around her stomach, trying to comfort herself as she thought of the future. How could she raise a child on her own? What was she going to do? Tears began to roll down her cheeks as she leaned her head against the cold stone bench. The sounds of the night filled her ears, distant cars driving by, leaves rustling in the trees, the occasional dog barking. She tried to push away the thoughts of loneliness and despair, but they kept creeping back in, reminding her of how utterly alone she was. Just as Sarah was about to close her eyes and drift off into an uneasy sleep, she heard footsteps. She looked up to see a man walking toward her, his long coat flowing behind him as he approached with steady confidence. His face was obscured by the shadows of the evening, but there was something in the way he carried himself that made Sarah instinctively sit up straighter. "Excuse me," the man's voice was deep, but gentle. As he came closer, "Are you okay?" Sarah instinctively pulled her coat tighter around her, her guard up. She had been warned about talking to strangers, especially when in her vulnerable state. "I'm fine," she said quickly, trying to sound convincing. "Just tired." The man paused, looking at her with an intensity that made Sarah feel both uneasy and oddly comforted. His eyes, a warm shade of brown, softened as he observed her, taking in her appearance: disheveled hair, worn-out clothes, and the slight curve of her belly that no longer went unnoticed. "You're not fine," he said quietly. "You're clearly in need of help." Sarah stared at him, her throat tightening. She didn't know how to explain her situation to a stranger, especially someone who seemed so put together. This man, with his expensive suit and kind expression, had no idea what it was like to be in her shoes. "I don't need charity," she said, her voice faltering. "I just need to figure things out." The man didn't say anything for a moment, his gaze thoughtful. Then he took a step closer and offered a hand. "I'm Samuel," he introduced himself, "and I think you need more than just a place to stay tonight. You need someone to listen, someone who believes in you." Sarah hesitated, unsure of his intentions. But there was something in the calmness of his demeanor, in the way he spoke, that made her consider his offer. She had never been good at asking for help, but in that moment, she realized that she didn't have the strength to keep pretending she was okay. "Please," Samuel said, his voice soft but insistent, "let me help you. Come with me. I have a place where you'll be safe, where you can rest, and most importantly, where you can figure things out without worrying about where you're going to sleep next." Tears stung Sarah's eyes again, but this time they were different. They weren't just tears of sadness, they were tears of relief, of finally having someone offer her kindness when she had been so used to rejection. She wiped them away quickly, ashamed of showing weakness, but Samuel noticed and offered her a gentle smile. "Come on," he said, his tone inviting. "You don't have to be alone anymore." That night, Sarah found herself in a luxurious apartment, far beyond anything she could have imagined for herself. Samuel had insisted she stay in the guest room, offering her clean sheets and a hot meal. He sat with her, listening patiently as she poured out everything: how her parents had thrown her out, how scared she was about being pregnant and alone, and how she felt like her world had been torn apart. Samuel listened with compassion, never interrupting, never judging. He reassured her that she was not alone and that, no matter what, she could always count on him. It was more than just words. It was the way he made her feel like she was deserving of kindness, like she mattered. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of changes. Samuel helped Sarah find resources, including a local women's shelter that offered support to single mothers. He connected her with a lawyer who could help her with legal matters surrounding her situation, and he even arranged for her to attend counseling to help her process the trauma she had experienced. Throughout it all, Samuel was by her side, offering unwavering support. He never asked for anything in return, never made her feel like she owed him. He simply wanted to help, to show her that there was more to life than the pain and rejection she had experienced. As the days passed, Sarah began to feel a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. She could see the future again, one that included her baby and the possibility of building a new life. One rooted in kindness, compassion, and strength. And as she grew closer to Samuel, she realized that there was more than just gratitude she felt for him. She felt something deeper, something she hadn't allowed herself to feel for a long time. She had been so focused on surviving, on taking care of her daughter, that she had forgotten what it meant to be cared for. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of his apartment, watching the sunset, Samuel turned to her with a soft smile. "Sarah," he said, his voice gentle but filled with emotion, "I want you to know that I care about you. I always have, since the moment I met you." Sarah felt her heart flutter, a warmth spreading through her chest. She hadn't expected this. She hadn't even realized how much she needed to hear those words until they were spoken. "I care about you, too," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Samuel leaned in, his eyes never leaving hers, and kissed her gently, as if he were offering her all the love and kindness he had promised. It was a kiss filled with hope, with the promise of a future they could build together one step at a time. From that moment forward, Sarah knew she wasn't alone anymore. She had found not just safety and compassion, but also a love that was built on kindness, trust, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. With Samuel by her side, she felt strong enough to face the challenges ahead and ready to build a future for herself and her child, one filled with love, care, and the belief that good things could come from the most unexpected places. As the months went by, Sarah's pregnancy progressed, and with each passing day, she felt more confident in the future. She and Samuel spent time planning for the baby's arrival, making sure that everything was ready for their new life together. Samuel continued to support her, not just as a friend, but as someone she could rely on, someone who had shown her that compassion could heal even the deepest wounds. And in the end, it wasn't just the love they shared that made their story beautiful, it was the kindness, the compassion, and the understanding that had brought them together. Together they had built something more precious than anything Sarah could have imagined, a family filled with love and hope, ready to face whatever the future held. As Sarah's due date approached, the bond between her and Samuel continued to grow stronger. What had started as an act of kindness had blossomed into something deeper, relationship rooted in mutual respect, trust, and understanding. They had come to rely on each other in ways that were both comforting and reassuring. Kindness was unrelenting. He made sure Sarah had everything she needed for the baby, from a cozy nursery to all the necessities that any new mother might require. He did it all without question, without expecting anything in return, and, with each passing day, Sarah found herself falling in love with him, not just for the way he treated her, but for the person he was. He was gentle, thoughtful, and endlessly patient, especially when it came to her. Despite the overwhelming gratitude she felt for him, Sarah still struggled with her past. There were nights when the pain of her family's rejection would resurface, when she felt unworthy of the life she was building with Samuel. On those nights, Samuel would be there, holding her close, reminding her of her worth, and reassuring her that she was loved, not just for what she did, but for who she was. His love for her felt like a balm, soothing the old wounds that hadn't fully healed. One evening, as they sat together on the couch, Samuel turned to her with a serious expression. "Sarah," he said softly, "I know the past still weighs on you, but I want you to know something. I believe in you, I believe in us, and I want you to be part of my life, not just as someone I care about, but as someone I want to build a future with." Sarah's heart skipped a beat. She had heard those words before, but coming from Samuel, they meant so much more. They were a promise, one that she could hold on to, one that made her feel safe in a way she never had before. She reached out and took his hand, her voice trembling as she responded. "I want that too, Samuel. I've never had someone believe in me like you do. I want to be with you, to build a life with you, and to create a future for our child." Samuel smiled, his eyes filled with tenderness. He pulled her into an embrace, his arms strong and comforting around her. "You don't have to do this alone anymore, Sarah. You'll never be alone again." It was then that Sarah realized how much Samuel had already become a part of her world. How much he had given her the strength to face what had seemed impossible. She had gone from being homeless and rejected to finding a love that was as steady and deep as the ocean. Her life, once so full of uncertainty, was now overflowing with the promise of something beautiful. As the months went by, Samuel continued to be her unwavering support. He took her to all of her doctor's appointments, and together they prepared for the birth of their child. Their days were filled with laughter as they chose baby names, painted the nursery, and shared moments that made their bond even stronger. Samuel's family, who had initially been wary of Sarah due to her difficult past, soon embraced her with open arms. They saw the love between Sarah and Samuel and knew that she had become an integral part of their family. The day Sarah went into labor, everything seemed to slow down. Samuel stayed by her side through every contraction, holding her hand, whispering words of encouragement, and offering her the strength to keep going. He had promised that he would be there, and he never wavered. When the baby finally arrived, healthy little boy, Sarah felt as though her heart might burst with joy. She looked up at Samuel, her eyes filled with tears, and whispered, "We did it. We really did it." Samuel leaned down, brushing his lips against her forehead. "I did it together, Sarah. We'll always do it together." As they held their son in their arms for the first time, Emily, Sarah's mother, arrived at the hospital, her eyes filled with emotion. Sarah had been unsure of how her mother would react to the baby, given the tension that had existed between them, but when her mother stepped into the room and saw her granddaughter for the first time, something shifted. "I'm so sorry, Sarah," her mother whispered, stepping forward to embrace her. "I was wrong. I've seen how much love and care you've given this baby, and I see how much Samuel loves you. I'm proud of you." For Sarah, that moment was everything. It was the forgiveness she hadn't known she needed, the reconciliation that closed a painful chapter in her life. She smiled through her tears, holding her mother close as they shared a moment of understanding. The love and kindness that had been shown to Sarah throughout her journey filled her with a profound sense of gratitude, from the man who had picked her up when she was lost to the family that had embraced her when they saw the strength in her. Sarah's life had transformed from one of rejection and heartache to one of acceptance, compassion, and endless love. In the years that followed, Sarah, Samuel, and their child built a life filled with joy. They traveled, laughed, and continued to grow as a family. The past was something they no longer dwelled on. It had been a part of their story, but not the entirety of it. Now their future was bright with possibility. And every night, as they lay in bed together, Samuel by her side and their son nestled between them, Sarah couldn't help but think about how far she had come. She had once been rejected, abandoned, and left to face the world alone. But now, she was surrounded by love, real love, the kind that is given freely and unconditionally. And for the first time in her life, Sarah truly understood what it meant to be loved, to be valued, and to be enough. And, as Samuel whispered into her ear, "I love you," Sarah smiled, knowing that she had found her place in the world, not by chance, but by the kindness, compassion, and love that had led her here. As the years passed, Sarah and Samuel's love only deepened. Their son, Jack, grew into a curious and joyful little boy, with his father's dark eyes and his mother's bright smile. Each milestone, from his first steps to his first words, was celebrated with the kind of joy that Sarah had never imagined possible. Samuel, ever the doting father, was by their side every step of the way, supporting Sarah through the sleepless nights and the countless changes that came with raising a child. Through it all, Sarah never took for granted how much her life had changed. She often found herself reflecting on the person she had been when she first met Samuel, broken, uncertain, and afraid. But now she felt grounded in a love so strong and so genuine that she knew she could face anything the future brought their way. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was thriving. There were times when Sarah would look at Samuel, and in those quiet moments, she could hardly believe how far they had come. She remembered the fear she had felt when she first arrived in his world, an outsider, someone who didn't belong. But Samuel had never treated her like that. From the very beginning he had shown her nothing but kindness, love, and patience. His faith in her had allowed her to believe in herself again, and in turn, she had learned how to give and receive love in ways she never thought possible. One afternoon, as Sarah watched Samuel play with Jack in the backyard, laughter filling the air, she felt a deep sense of contentment. The house they had made their home was filled with the sounds of life, the clink of dishes being washed, the hum of the washing machine, and, most of all, the sound of her family's laughter. Samuel turned to her, a playful grin on his face, as he called over to her, "Hey, love, you coming out to play with us?" She smiled back, her heart full, and shook her head. I'm watching my two favorite boys right now. You guys have fun. But Samuel wasn't going to let her off that easy. Come on, Sarah, it's a beautiful day. We've been working hard all week. Let's enjoy the moment. He walked toward her, scooping Jack up in his arms as if it were the most natural thing in the world, and then offered her his hand. There was no resisting him. Sarah stood, walking toward him with a smile that was just for him. She took his hand, and the three of them, Samuel, Sarah, and Jack, spent the rest of the afternoon outside, enjoying each other's company and the simple joy of being together. It was these small moments that made her feel as though she had everything she had ever needed. Later that evening, after Jack had gone to bed, Samuel and Sarah sat together on the porch, sipping wine and watching the stars appear one by one in the night sky. The evening was cool and quiet, the only sound being the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. It was a peaceful moment, one of those rare times when they didn't have to worry about anything. Samuel leaned back in his chair, glancing at Sarah with a contented smile. You know, I've been thinking a lot lately, he said, his voice calm and steady. We've come so far, haven't we? Sarah nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars above. We have. It feels like a dream sometimes. I don't know how I got so lucky. You didn't get lucky, Sarah, Samuel said, his voice soft but full of emotion. You earned every bit of happiness you have now. You've been through so much, and yet here you are, stronger than ever. You've created a beautiful life for yourself and, for us. I'm just lucky that you've let me be a part of it. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she turned to look at him. I never thought I could have this. I never thought I could have a family, a home, or someone who loves me the way you do. Samuel reached out and gently cupped her face, wiping away the tear that had slipped down her cheek. You deserve all of this, Sarah. You deserve everything. And in that moment, Sarah realized how far she had come. She had found a love that wasn't just about grand gestures or moments of passion. It was about consistency, kindness, and the kind of deep connection that grows over time. It was about having someone who was always there for you, through the hard times and the good. It was about the quiet moments that made everything feel like it was exactly as it should be. They sat there for a while, in silence, just soaking in the beauty of the night and the peacefulness that surrounded them. Samuel's words were still in her heart, resonating deep within her. She had come from a place of darkness and despair, but now, she was surrounded by light. A light that came from the love she had found in Samuel, in Jack, and in herself as they sat there together. Emily, Sarah's mother, called to check in. Sarah hadn't heard from her in a while and she found herself a little apprehensive about the conversation. They had rebuilt their relationship slowly, and while things had gotten better between them, there were still moments when Sarah wasn't sure how to navigate their new dynamic. But this time, the conversation was different. Emily asked about Jack, about how Sarah was doing, and about her life with Samuel. She expressed her gratitude for Samuel's kindness and for everything he had done for Sarah. It was clear that she had come to respect him and the love he had shown her daughter. I'm really proud of you, Sarah, Emily said, her voice full of warmth. I know things haven't always been easy, but you've built something beautiful. You deserve this happiness. Her words meant more than Sarah could express. It was the first time in a long time that her mother had spoken to her with such pride and affection. Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with emotion. Thank you, Mom. I'm happy. I finally feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be. Later that evening, as Samuel held her in his arms, she whispered into the darkness, I'm grateful, Samuel. I don't know what I would have done without you. You've given me so much. You've given me everything, Sarah, he whispered back, pressing a kiss to her forehead. Everything. And as they drifted off to sleep that night, Sarah knew that love wasn't just about being rescued. It was about finding someone who could help you become the best version of yourself, someone who believed in you, supported you, and never gave up on you. In Samuel, she had found her partner, her equal, and her heart. The journey they had started together was far from over. But Sarah knew that whatever the future held, they would face it side by side, one moment at a time, with love as their guiding light. As the months passed, Sarah's life became more and more woven together with Samuel's. What had started as a moment of kindness, a simple offer of help, had transformed into a deep, unwavering partnership. Their love grew in quiet, tender ways. Every day brought new moments of connection, whether it was cooking together in the kitchen, taking evening walks, or reading to Jack before bed. Each of these moments filled Sarah with a sense of fulfillment she had never known. It was a life built not on luxury, but on the rich simplicity of love, support, and genuine companionship. One Saturday afternoon, Samuel took Sarah out for a surprise. He blindfolded her as they got into the car, insisting he had something special. planned. The anticipation built as they drove, and Sarah could feel her heart flutter with excitement. When they finally arrived at their destination, Samuel helped her out of the car and removed the blindfold. Before her stood a charming little house with a white picket fence, surrounded by lush greenery. There was a for sale sign in front, and the place looked like something straight out of a storybook. Her eyes widened in disbelief. Samuel, what is this? He gasped, her voice trembling with emotion. Samuel smiled, his eyes twinkling with affection. It's our new home, Sarah. I've been saving up for months. I wanted us to have a place of our own somewhere we can build memories, where Jack can grow up surrounded by love and warmth. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she looked at the house, her heart overwhelmed with gratitude. This wasn't just a house, it was a symbol of everything Samuel had done for her and their family. He hadn't just provided her with material comfort, he had given her a sense of belonging, a sense of purpose. I don't know what to say, Sarah whispered, her voice choked with emotion. I never imagined this. I never thought I could have a life like this. You don't have to say anything, Samuel said, his voice full of tenderness as he pulled her close. You've earned this, Sarah. You've built this family from the ground up. I just want to give you everything you deserve. Sarah closed her eyes, resting her head on Samuel's chest. She couldn't help but think back to the moment when she had first found herself on that cold bench in the park, lost and hopeless. The world had seemed so dark then, but now, everything had changed. She had a family, a home, and a love so deep that she could hardly believe it was real. As they stood there holding each other, Samuel's voice broke through her thoughts. How about we go inside, he said, smiling at her. Let's start this new chapter together. And that was exactly what they did. Over the following weeks, Sarah and Samuel poured their hearts into the little house. They painted walls, assembled furniture, and filled the rooms with love and laughter. Jack's laughter echoed through the halls as he ran through the rooms, his excitement palpable. It was a home, not just in the physical sense, but in every way that mattered. Every evening, Sarah would look around their home and feel a sense of peace settle in her heart. This was the life she had always dreamed of, one where love wasn't a luxury, but a daily gift. With Samuel by her side, she knew that anything was possible. Then one evening, as Sarah stood in the kitchen preparing dinner, Samuel came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. He kissed the back of her neck, and she turned around, smiling at him. Hey, he said, his voice low and soft. I was thinking about the future. I know we've built so much already, but I want us to keep dreaming together. I want to make every day count. Sarah smiled, feeling the warmth of his words sink into her heart. I want that too. Samuel, I want to keep building with you. I never imagined I'd have a partner like you, someone who supports me, believes in me, and loves me so fully. Samuel gazed at her, his eyes filled with sincerity. I believe in you, Sarah, and I'll always be here no matter what life throws at us. We're a team, now and always. They shared a kiss that was soft and full of promise. A kiss that spoke of everything they had overcome, and everything they still had to look forward to. It was the kind of kiss that made Sarah feel like nothing in the world could ever tear them apart. As the years went on, their love only grew stronger. They weathered challenges together, supporting each other through the ups and downs of life. Samuel's business continued to flourish, but it was never at the expense of his family. He always made time for Sarah and Jack, ensuring that their home was always filled with laughter and love. Jack, now a young boy, excelled at school and began to show a passion for sports. Sarah watched as Samuel taught him how to ride a bike, how to kick a soccer ball, and how to believe in himself. She marveled at how much Samuel had become not just her partner, but the father Jack needed, a man who led with kindness, who cared with his whole heart, and who taught Jack the values of hard work, compassion, and love. One evening, as Sarah tucked Jack into bed, he looked up at her with his big, curious eyes. Mom, he said softly, I'm really lucky, aren't I? Sarah smiled, brushing a strand of hair from his face. Why's that, sweetheart? Because I have you and Dad, Jack said with a simple sincerity. You guys love me so much, and I love you. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she kissed his forehead. I love you too, Jack. You're our greatest blessing. Always remember that. As she closed the door to his room that night, Sarah felt a deep sense of fulfillment. She had been through so much, but she had come out the other side stronger, surrounded by a love that was steady and true. Samuel's kindness had given her a new life, and together, they had built a family filled with laughter, warmth, and unwavering support. As she walked into the living room, Samuel looked up from his book and smiled at her. Without saying a word, he held out his hand, and Sarah walked into his embrace. They stood there in silence for a moment, holding each other, knowing that they had everything they had ever dreamed of. "Thank you," Sarah whispered, her voice full of gratitude. "Thank you for everything." Samuel kissed the top of her head, his arms around her tighter than ever. "Thank you for believing in me," he said softly. "You are everything I ever wanted, Sarah. You and Jack. You're my world." And as they stood there together, in the comfort of their home, Sarah knew that no matter what challenges they faced in the future, they would always have each other. Their love was their foundation, their strength, and their greatest gift. And with that love, there was no obstacle too great to overcome, no dream too far out of reach. In the quiet moments of their life, Sarah realized that true happiness wasn't found in wealth or status, but in love, the kind that had lifted her when she had nothing, and had given her everything she could ever need. And she knew, without a doubt, that she had finally found her place in the world, right where she belonged, with the family she had always dreamed of. As the seasons changed, life in their new home continued to feel like a dream. The house had become a symbol of everything they had built together, the hard work, the sacrifices, and the unspoken love that held them all together. Samuel continued to thrive in his career, and Sarah took on a job that allowed her to help others, fulfilling the sense of purpose she had longed for. Jack thrived in school, and his laughter filled the home with joy. They had become a family in the truest sense of the word, strong, supportive, and deeply connected. But just as everything seemed to be falling into place, Sarah began to notice subtle changes in Samuel. He had always been a driven man, dedicated to his business and family, but recently he seemed distant. He spent more and more late nights at the office and less time at home. At first, Sarah thought it was just the pressures of work, but as days turned into weeks, she began to feel a growing sense of unease. One evening, while Samuel was on a late call, Sarah found herself standing by the window, looking out at the sprawling city below. The lights twinkled in the distance, but they didn't bring her the sense of comfort they once had. She had always trusted Samuel, trusted that their love would be enough to overcome anything. But now, doubts crept into her mind. Was he still as invested in their future as she was? Or was something else happening? It was that night, as she sat on the couch, when she heard a knock on the door. Surprised, she opened it to find a woman standing on the doorstep, her eyes red-rimmed and tired, as if she had been crying. She was holding a small envelope, and as Sarah looked at her with confusion, the woman spoke. "Are you Mrs. Sarah Carter?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Yes, I am," Sarah said, a sense of worry rising in her chest. "What is it?" The woman handed her the envelope, her hands trembling. "This is for you. Please, read it." She turned and walked away before Sarah could say anything further. As Sarah opened the envelope, she found a letter inside its contents, making her heart stop cold. The letter was from a private investigator, detailing a series of events she could never have imagined. Samuel, her beloved partner, had been involved in a series of questionable business dealings that had recently come to light. Worse, there was evidence suggesting that his financial dealings had been less than honest, including fraudulent investments and business arrangements that had hurt people in the community. Shock overwhelmed her as she read through the details. Samuel, the man she had trusted with her heart and her future, had a secret life she knew nothing about. The letter revealed not only his business dealings but also something far more personal. The woman on her doorstep wasn't just a stranger, she was someone Samuel had been seeing in secret. The letter contained her name and a picture of her with Samuel. It was a betrayal so deep, so painful, that it made Sarah's head spin. Her hands shook as she read the final lines, revealing that the woman was pregnant with Samuel's child. Tears filled Sarah's eyes as she sat down, the weight of the betrayal settling in her chest like a heavy stone. How could this happen? How had Samuel, the man who had shown her nothing but love and kindness, been living this double life? And why had he kept it from her? Her mind raced with questions, each one more painful than the last. She felt numb, unsure of what to do or who to trust. Everything she had built with Samuel suddenly seemed like a fragile illusion, one that had crumbled in an instant. As she sat there, trying to process everything, the door opened, and Samuel stepped inside. He froze when he saw her sitting there, the letter still in her hands. "Sarah," he asked, his voice uncertain. "What's wrong?" She didn't speak at first. Instead, she stood up slowly, holding the letter out to him. His eyes flicked over it, and his face went pale as he realized she had discovered everything. His shoulders sagged, and he took a deep breath, clearly struggling to find the words. "Sarah, I can explain," he said, his voice shaking. "Explain," Sarah whispered, the pain in her chest making it hard to breathe. How could you do this to me, Samuel? After everything we've been through, after everything you promised, how could you betray me like this? Samuel looked at her, his expression filled with guilt. I never meant for you to find out this way. I've made mistakes. I've been hiding things from you because I didn't want to hurt you. But the truth is, I've been struggling for months with something I couldn't control. My business, it's all falling apart, and I got involved with people who didn't have my best interests at heart. And the woman, Sarah asked, her voice trembling, what about her? Samuel ran a hand through his hair, his face pained. She was a mistake I can't undo. But it doesn't change how much I love you, Sarah. I swear it. I never wanted to hurt you or Jack. Please, let me explain everything. Sarah took a step back, shaking her head in disbelief. You have a child with her, Samuel. You've been living a lie. And now you expect me to believe you still love me. The pain in her voice cut through him. He stepped toward her, but she held up her hand, stopping him. I don't know who you are anymore, she said softly, her heart breaking. I thought we had built something real. I thought we had a future. But now, I don't know if I can trust you. Samuel's face crumpled in despair. I understand why you feel that way, but Sarah, I need you to know that I made a terrible mistake. I can't change the past, but I can try to make things right. I'll do whatever it takes to fix this, to earn your trust back. Please don't give up on me. For a moment, there was silence. Sarah felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her, the woman and the child, the betrayal, the lies. It all swirled around her, making it hard to breathe. But in that moment, Sarah realized something. She wasn't the same person who had been left on the street all those months ago. She had built a life for herself, found her strength, and created a world with Jack that was filled with love. She had come so far, and though Samuel's betrayal hurt deeply, she knew that she deserved more than the shadows of the life he had built for himself. I don't know if I can forgive you, Samuel, she said, her voice steady, though her heart was breaking. I don't know if I can trust you again, but I do know this: my priority is Jack, and no matter what happens, I'll always be the mother he deserves. Samuel stood there, his face full of regret and sorrow. I understand, Sarah. I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. I love you, and I'll wait for you. But Sarah, with a broken heart, turned away. She couldn't make him part of her future anymore, not after everything he had done. She had to rebuild once more, this time not for Samuel, but for herself and for Jack. And with that decision, Sarah began the next chapter of her life, one built on love, and the strength she had always carried within her. No longer would she be defined by the mistakes of others, but by her own resilience and the love she shared with her son. In the weeks that followed, Sarah focused on regaining her balance. She spent her days with Jack, ensuring that he felt loved and secure despite the upheaval in their lives. She threw herself into her work at the local clinic, helping others in need, which provided her with a sense of purpose. Every day was a challenge, but slowly, Sarah began to rediscover the woman she had once been, the woman who had dreams, hopes, and desires that went beyond being a mother and a nurse. Jack, too, adapted. At first he struggled with the tension between his parents, unsure of how to process the situation. He had always seen his mother as strong, unshakable, and now he saw her hurt and uncertain. One afternoon, as they were sitting together in the living room, Jack turned to her with a serious expression. "Mum, do you think Dad will ever come back?" he asked quietly. The question hit Sarah like a ton of bricks. She had no easy answer for him, no comforting lie to tell. She could see the hope in Jack's eyes, and she knew that no matter what she said, his world had already been irrevocably changed. "I don't know, sweetie," she said, pulling him close. "But what I do know is that we're okay. I'm here for you, and we're going to get through this together, you and me, always." Jack nodded, though his brow furrowed with uncertainty. "But, Mum, what if you don't want to be with Dad anymore?" Sarah's heart ached at his question, at the innocence in his voice. She didn't know if she would ever want to rebuild the relationship with Samuel, but she couldn't bring herself to answer her son's question with anything but the truth. "I don't know what's going to happen, Jack, but I do know that you and I are going to be okay. You're my priority, and no matter what happens with your dad, we will always have each other." For the first time in weeks, Sarah felt a little lighter. The love she had for her son was unwavering, and it was enough to carry her through the hardest of times. Meanwhile, Samuel continued to call, to send messages asking for a chance to make things right, but Sarah remained firm in her decision to keep her distance. She couldn't erase the past or the hurt he had caused, and as much as she had once loved him, she couldn't let his mistakes dictate her future. It was on one of these quiet evenings that Sarah's life took another unexpected turn. She was at the clinic, preparing to finish her shift, when a familiar voice called out to her from across the room. "Sarah." She turned around and found herself face to face with someone she hadn't seen in months, Sophie, her best friend. From the nursing school days, Sophie had been her constant companion, and they had been inseparable during their early years of working together. Sophie had moved to a different state a few years ago, but the bond between them had never broken. "Sophie," Sarah exclaimed, rushing to embrace her. "What are you doing here?" Sophie smiled, her eyes sparkling with warmth. "I was in town visiting family, and I heard about everything that happened. I knew I had to see you. How are you doing?" For a moment, Sarah hesitated. She wanted to be strong, but the flood of emotions that had built up in her chest was overwhelming. "It's been tough," Sarah said, her voice quiet. "I've been dealing with a lot, and it's hard. I don't know what to do." Sophie listened intently, and when Sarah was finished, Sophie took her hands in hers. "I'm here, Sarah. You don't have to do this alone. You've been so strong, but it's okay to let others help you too." Sarah blinked back tears, the comfort of her friend's words offering a much-needed respite. She hadn't realized just how much she had been carrying on her own, and Sophie's presence reminded her that she didn't have to face everything alone. The two of them spent the evening talking, reminiscing about old times, and laughing until their stomachs hurt. It was exactly what Sarah needed, a reminder that life could still hold moments of joy even in the midst of pain. Sophie was a lifeline, a safe space where Sarah could pour out her feelings without judgment or expectation. Night, as Sarah lay in bed, she reflected on everything that had happened. She had faced the ultimate betrayal, and it had shaken her to her core. But now, in this moment, she realized that she was stronger than she had ever given herself credit for. The love and support from Jack, and now from Sophie, had been a constant reminder that she wasn't alone. And then, just as she was starting to believe she could handle anything that came her way, there was a knock on the door. It was Samuel. He stood there looking almost like a stranger, his face gaunt, eyes tired, and the weight of regret written all over him. "Sarah, please," he said quietly. "Can we talk?" Her heart raced, and for a moment she didn't know what to say. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the raw vulnerability there. He had never looked so lost, so broken. "Why now?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Why after everything? Why after what you did?" "I know I don't deserve another chance," Samuel said, his voice thick with emotion, "but I've been living in regret every day. I can't change what happened, but I need you to know that I love you, and I'm not asking for your forgiveness. I just... I need you to know how sorry I am." Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she considered his words. She had loved him once so deeply, so fully, but now, as she stood there in front of him, she couldn't deny the pain he had caused. But in his eyes, she saw something different now, remorse, a sincerity that had been missing before. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Samuel," Sarah said softly, "but you deserve to be forgiven. Just not by me, not right now. Maybe someday, but not today." Samuel nodded, accepting her words with humility. "I understand. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know how much I regret hurting you." The two of them stood there in silence, each facing their own truths. Samuel had broken their family, but Sarah had rebuilt her life. And now, as the door closed between them, she knew that the path forward was uncertain. But one thing was clear: Sarah had learned the most important lesson of all, how to love herself. And in the face of Samuel's betrayal, that was the most powerful lesson she could take with her into the future. Samuel's shadow no longer loomed over her. The love she had for herself, the love she shared with Jack, and the friendship she had rekindled with Sophie would guide her into the next chapter of her life. And though the future was unknown, Sarah had the strength to face whatever came her way, knowing she wasn't alone anymore. As she closed her eyes that night, a peaceful sleep finally enveloped her. She had survived the storm, and now, she was ready to embrace the calm that followed. As the weeks passed, Sarah found herself stronger than she had ever been. The pain of Samuel's betrayal, though still lingering in her heart, no longer held her captive. She had slowly learned to forgive, but not for him. She forgave for herself. The weight of the past was no longer heavy on her shoulders, and she had begun to believe that happiness and love could come again, even after all that she had lost. One evening, Sarah sat at the dinner table, enjoying a simple meal with Jack. He had been her anchor throughout all of this, his smile a reminder of why she fought so hard for a better future. As they ate, she couldn't help but notice how much Jack was growing. He was becoming more mature, understanding her more deeply with each passing day. Mum, Jack said between bites of his food. I think you're really happy now. I can tell. Sarah smiled softly, looking across the table at her son. I am happy, Jack, and I'm getting happier every day. That evening, after Jack had gone to bed, Sarah sat alone in her living room, lost in her thoughts. The house was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been in a long time. Just as she was about to head to bed, there was a knock at the door. Heart skipped a beat as she stood up, unsure of who could be visiting at this hour. When she opened the door, she found herself face to face with Luke. Sarah, he said, his voice full of warmth and urgency. Can we talk? Without waiting for a response, Luke stepped into her home, his presence filling the room. Sarah's pulse quickened as he stood there, looking at her with such tenderness. She could see the same emotion in his eyes that had drawn her to him in the first place, a kind of quiet longing mixed with respect. Luke, what are you doing here? Sarah asked, her voice soft but steady. I've been thinking a lot, Luke said, his gaze never leaving hers. About everything. About you, about us, and about what really matters. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She had thought about him so often in the past few weeks, but she never imagined he would come to her doorstep like this. Luke stepped closer, his eyes filled with a raw, honest emotion that made Sarah's heart race. I know we've both been through a lot. You've been hurt, I've been hurt, but I can't deny how I feel about you, Sarah. Every time I think about what we've shared, I only want more of it. I want you in my life. I want us to explore this connection, to see where it can go. Sarah's heart thudded in her chest as she tried to make sense of her emotions. She had fought so hard to be independent, to heal from the pain of the past. But standing here with Luke, everything seemed so clear. She wanted him too. She didn't want to let the past define her, not anymore. She wanted to let love in again, love that was patient, real, and all-consuming. I don't know if I'm ready, Sarah whispered, the vulnerability of her words hanging in the air between them. I've been so hurt, Luke. I don't know if I can open up again. Luke reached out, gently taking her hand in his. His touch was warm, comforting, and it sent a shiver down her spine. You don't have to be ready right now. I don't want to rush you, but I want you to know that I'm here. I'll wait for you. I'll be patient with you, because I believe in what we have. In that moment, everything Sarah had been holding back, the fear, the hesitation, the uncertainty melted away. She could see the sincerity in Luke's eyes, and it made her realize just how much she had been missing. Maybe she wasn't completely healed, but that didn't mean she couldn't take a chance. Maybe love, real love, wasn't something that had to be perfect, it just had to be genuine. With a soft sigh, Sarah leaned into him, her body instinctively drawn to his warmth. She could feel the steady beat of his heart as he pulled her into a tight embrace. He held her close, his lips brushing against the top of her head as he whispered, I won't rush you, Sarah. I just want you to know that I'm here, and I'll wait for you. Her heart swelled with emotion as she pulled away slightly, looking up at him. I'm not sure what's going to happen, Luke, but I want to give this a chance. I want to see where it goes, together. And with that, their lips met softly at first, then deepening as the passion between them ignited. It wasn't a kiss of desperation, but of longing, of a shared connection that neither of them had expected but both of them felt so deeply. It was a kiss that spoke of all the unspoken emotions, the fear and the hope, the healing and the desire to build something new together. As they kissed, Sarah felt something within her stir, something that had been dormant for so long. It was a fire, a passion she had almost forgotten existed. Luke's hands moved gently to her waist, pulling her closer as the kiss grew more intense, more urgent. Her breath quickened, and she felt her body respond to his touch in a way that made her feel alive, truly alive, for the first time in years. That when they finally pulled away, both of them breathless, Luke rested his forehead against hers. I want you, Sarah, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I want you in my life, in my heart. I want you to, Luke, she replied, her voice barely audible. I just needed to believe it was real. I needed to believe that I deserve love again. You do, Luke assured her, his hands gently cupping her face as he kissed her again, this time with all the passion that had been building between them. It wasn't just physical, it was an affirmation of everything they had shared, and everything they could still create together. The world outside seemed to fade as they stood there, lost in each other's embrace, in the power of their connection. It was a love that had grown from the ashes of pain and disappointment, a love that had been built on kindness, compassion, and patience. And as their lips met once more, Sarah knew that this was only the beginning. This was the love she had been waiting for, the love that could heal all wounds, the love that could transform everything. And so, in the quiet of that moment, Sarah and Luke began the journey of their new life together, a life that would be filled with passionate love, joy, and endless possibilities. Together, they had found something real, a love that had the power to heal, to nurture, and to grow with every passing day. In the end, it was no longer about the past or the mistakes they had made. It was about the future they were building, one that was full of hope, love, and an unbreakable bond. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, Sarah and Luke's love blossomed into something that neither of them had ever expected. What had begun as a simple connection, sparked by kindness and compassion, had evolved into a deep, passionate love that filled their lives with joy and meaning. Together, they built a life that was grounded in mutual respect and trust. Luke was not just a lover but a partner in every sense of the word. He was there for Sarah in ways she hadn't thought possible. He listened to her, supported her, and stood by her side through every challenge. And Sarah, in turn, had given him a love that was pure, healing, and full of warmth. One evening, after a quiet dinner at their home, Luke turned to Sarah with a look of determination in his eyes. "Sarah," he said, his voice soft but steady, "I've been thinking about the future a lot lately, about us, about our life together." Sarah smiled, her heart swelling with affection. "And what do you see, Luke?" He reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I see a future filled with happiness, with love, with everything we've dreamed of. But most importantly, I see a life where we continue to grow together. I want us to keep building on this love, to share everything that's to come." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she squeezed his hand. "I never imagined I could be this happy again," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You've given me everything I never thought I deserved. You've shown me what true love feels like." Luke smiled warmly, his eyes filled with love and admiration. "You deserve everything, Sarah. You've always deserved it." As Sarah looked into Luke's eyes, she realized just how far they had come together. From the struggles of the past to the beauty of the present, they had built something incredible, something unbreakable. "I love you, Luke," Sarah said, her voice steady now, full of conviction. "More than anything in this world. And I'm so grateful for every moment we've shared, for every step we've taken together." Luke's smile deepened as he leaned forward, kissing her gently, a kiss that spoke of everything they had built, everything they had overcome. It was a kiss of promises made and dreams shared. And when they pulled away, their hearts beating in perfect synchrony, they both knew that this was only the beginning. With Luke by her side, Sarah had found not just love but a future full of possibilities. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, with a bond that was unshakable and a love that would only grow stronger with time. And so, with a heart full of hope and a future that gleamed brighter than ever before, Sarah and Luke embraced the life they had created. They had found something rare, something beautiful, a love that had the power to heal, to inspire, and to fill every moment with joy. As the years passed, they continued to build their dreams together, raising a family, traveling the world, and cherishing the quiet moments that made life so extraordinary. Their love was no longer just a spark, it was a fire, one that would burn brightly for the rest of their lives. And in the end, Sarah realized that the love she had once thought was lost forever had found its way back to her in the most unexpected and beautiful way.